Hickok 45 here. Welcome to the Hickok 45 Talks channel. Yes, was everybody in the 1800s a wimp? What was their problem? You've seen the movies. Maybe you've read some novels that portray them that way as well. But I'm sure you've seen a movie, Western series or a movie about the Old West, the 1800s, where the townspeople are just a bunch of namby-pamby store clerks. And the sheriff and deputies have to handle everything. Cannot get any help, cannot get any deputies to help them out. They're just at the mercy of all these, I don't know, I'll avoid adjectives here, but these men, townspeople, who just run the other way when violence comes, danger comes, and we could all name them, name some. High Noon comes to mind, of course, and there are others, so many different episodes of, you name it. Probably almost all of the episodes, there's an element of that, or all the series. There's probably an episode, and even Gunsmoke or The Rifleman, or you name it, where you got pretty good townspeople and all those series. I don't know, Lawman, just go down the list. But there are very likely episodes where you see this, and in some movies that's the main plot line, like High Noon, more or less, where you have some bad guys coming in there after the sheriff, and Gary Cooper can't get any help, can't get anybody deputized, and they all start chickening out on him and all this kind of thing. Well, for a long time, a lot of decades, I would look askance on that, even before I knew any history or could have told you what happened at Coffeyville, maybe, or Northfield, Minnesota, and who knows how many other examples where the townspeople jumped in and took care of things. It just didn't seem right. People generally, they want to help out, and they weren't a bunch of wimps back then either. On top of that, they fought for what they had for the most part, and especially if they're living out west, they might have fought to get out there. Who knows what many of them went through? A lot of tough customers out in Dodge City or wherever you want to go. Tombstone. So they're not likely, whether they're running a store, they have a business, they're not likely to be afraid of their own shadow, right? But it makes good plot line. It makes a good narrative for the Western. In a way, and there's a little bit of this, like I say, in most of those, I guess, even in modern cop shows or whatever. You want whether it's, who was it, that Chuck Norris played in that series, I'm drawing a blank, but you want the Texas Ranger, you want the Marshal, you want the Sheriff to really be a prominent character, handle things. That's generally the way it runs, right? Just like the old series Lawman, Dan Troop takes care of business, doesn't he? Marshall Dillon takes care of business. Nothing he can't handle. He's above everybody else in a lot of ways, right? He can outgun them, and he's willing to go into the face of danger. And so you got this natural contrast you want to portray between, like, Marshall Dillon and the bartender and the goofball at the post office or whatever. It's just kind of the roles they play, right? Whereas in the real world, the guy that runs the post office might have been one of the toughest characters around. Who knows? But like, for example, though, in Coffeyville, if you're familiar with that, where the Daltons tried to rob two banks there, came through there a few years ago and went into the one bank. I think one of them is now something else, but the one bank right there on the kind of the corner, it's still there, pretty much intact, and they've got it like a museum. And there's a hardware across the street, a hardware store, and when the Daltons came in, it wasn't long before the townspeople realized what was going on. Someone went into the hardware store and got rifles, and they started shooting at them because they were robbing their banks. and that's where most of the Daltons ended their lives, right there. You've seen the pictures, probably photographs of them laid out on the board floor sidewalk. So they took care of business. Bullets started flying, and most of them in their direction. Yeah, and then of course in was it Northfield, yeah, Minnesota, when the James gang, younger gang, went up there, thought they'd rob the bank, and townspeople, and somebody recognized them maybe, and all that, and man, they all got their guns together, and they wiped them out too pretty well. So that's more realistic. Hey, maybe because it's what happened. Yeah. I'm not saying there's not some townspeople that were maybe afraid of the shadows like today, but it just doesn't pass the smell test, does it? When you see that, what concerns me a little bit is when I see those TV shows or those movies like that, or even the old ones, High Noon or something. I think I don't know, like young people who don't know any better watch that, get this impression that I don't know, men are just wimps. It's just a 1 in 100, like whoever the sheriff is, is somebody that's willing to stand up against evil, and everybody else is just a Walter Mitty, meek little storekeeper or something. That's just not the case. It's not the case, right? So that's always bothered me, and I knew it bothered some of you, so I wanted to chat about it a little bit. Make sure you haven't fallen for that. Yeah. And what are some other movies I'm not thinking about where they portray that way, where it's just a big deal? Nobody in the town wants to help. There's some bad guys, some thugs coming in. They're gonna hurrah the town, take it over or whatever, and the sheriff cannot get a posse or enough people together to defend the town. Like, who's not going to defend their town? So all right. So anyway, I'll let you go on that. I'll let you contemplate that. While you're contemplating that, maybe contemplate the nature of the universe. And yes, in case you wondered, my leg is still badly broken. It's just been 2 weeks. So it's propped up on my handy little knee bike here, my knee scooter. So thought I'd come out and chat with you anyway. It's one thing I could do. Could come out and talk about some dumb things while I'm healing my leg and my foot. Life is good.